When I first joined the military, I was incredibly naive. I actually believed what the recruiters told me without understanding the difference between doctrine, how things should work, and reality, how things really work. I thought officers were the best and brightest, selfless and mission-focused. I thought non-commissioned officers earned their stripes purely through competence and leadership. And I believed that enlisted soldiers found true family in one another, bound by a shared oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Within a year, I learned the hard way that, with few exceptions, those ideals were myths. I had married my college sweetheart before shipping out to Germany. She was a couple of years younger than me, and I was eager to prove myself as both a soldier and a man. I volunteered for overseas assignments, combat deployments, and the hardest jobs the Army had to offer. Coming from poverty, the military was my ticket to the middle class. The sales pitch was simple. I take care of the nation. The Army takes care of me and my family. But that promise unraveled fast for both me and my young bride, Erin. After graduating, I finished basic training, airborne parachute school, and Ranger Commando training. I checked every box and earned my reputation as a badass. But instead of Special Forces or the 82nd Airborne, I was sent overseas to a security detail, a dead-end assignment with no relation to elite combat roles. The schedule was brutal, originally 24 hours on, 24 off, followed by 3 days of 8-hour shifts. But due to downsizing and operational demands, our detachment was cut from 5 shifts to 2. The result? We worked 24 hours on duty, followed by 6 hours of admin work, then 18 hours off 365 days a year. Instead of 2,000 hours a year, we were on duty almost 5,000 hours per year. That kind of grind doesn't just wear you down, it destroys relationships. Erin had no job skills beyond her high school diploma, so she spent a lot of time at the base recreation center, surrounded by hundreds of young soldiers. She was blonde, blue-eyed, with a model's figure and a killer smile, a classic cheerleader type, but also book smart and driven. We had planned for her to take college classes while I worked. Within just 1 year of long shifts, I was exhausted. After my 30-hour shifts, all I wanted was food and sleep. We still had sex about odd times a week, but I often passed out immediately afterward. Erin started talking about one of her instructors, a captain I'll call Dustin, who taught night classes as an adjunct. She'd go on and on about how brilliant Keith was, how much she enjoyed his classes. I got suspicious and once peeked through the classroom window during one of her lectures. Her expression made it clear she was smitten with him. When I finally met him, I had to call him Captain Dustin, while she just called him Keith. That power imbalance and the casual intimacy made me extremely uneasy. Due to my work schedule, I didn't have the time or energy to investigate their potential affair, though, because the 24-hour shifts never stopped. Near the end of my overseas tour, Erin asked for a legal separation. I suspected it had to do with Dustin, but I couldn't do much about it. I signed the paperwork, and she returned to the U.S. 6 months before I rotated back. Later, I learned her request aligned perfectly with Captain Dustin's return to the States. 6 months later, I came home, and to my surprise, she wanted to reconcile. I thought I still loved her. Since I grew up in a broken home, I had vowed never to get divorced. So, I took her back. It helped that my mother-in-law had shamed Erin into coming home to fix the marriage. Our relationship was better at our new duty station, as I had normal 8-hour shifts, promotions, some extra cash for restaurants and date nights. One day, I came home early and picked up the kitchen phone just as the upstairs phone rang. It was Keith Dustin. I heard Erin say, "Hello, Keith," and I immediately knew they were still playing. I kept quiet and listened. She told him she missed him, wanted to talk, and they shared explicit details about their affair. When she ended the call with, "I love you," my heart sank. I confronted her on the spot. "How long has this been going on?" Erin admitted it began in Germany while she was his student and resumed in the United States. Why him? He was a captain with flight pay, fancy dinners, and gifts. I was just a junior officer who could barely afford rent. I asked the painful question every guy asks, was he better in bed? She said no, he wasn't stronger, bigger, or more satisfying, but he made me feel like a princess. You're still a pauper. I wanted revenge, but any confrontation could have meant my court-martial or prison. So I kept my cool, even as I told her that screwing him while we were reconciled was not a mistake, it was a choice. Her defense? "But I came back to you," I replied. "But you're still having sex with him." That ended our sex life in 1980. I no longer wanted her. My disgust pushed her closer to him again. A few weeks later, she said, "We need to talk." She tried to justify it all, said she never denied me love or support, but I was often unavailable, and that her affair was just about feeling special. I reminded her that I was available. Except for occasional combat training or maneuvers, I was home every night. Eventually, I discovered they had lunchtime rendezvous and motel meetups whenever I was away. I told her, "If you keep seeing him, I'll beat his ass." A week later, I received new orders and unaccompanied tour to South Korea. Aaron suddenly became very affectionate, sleeping with me every night and morning until I left for Korea. I refused sex. Just looking at the cheater made me want to puke. I didn't have time to exact revenge against her affair partner as I was quickly deployed to Korea. While I was gone, Aaron and I exchanged letters, 24 in total over 1 year. Mail took 1 to 2 weeks to arrive. Email did not yet exist. Meanwhile, I heard rumors from other officers and soldiers that Aaron was hanging around the Fort Bliss Officers Club, acting like a barfly. Names started to surface: Dustin, Jeff, Tom, Rick. My sweet young bride had apparently become something else entirely, a promiscuous whore. After 6 months, my mid-tour vacation arrived. But when I tried to buy an airplane ticket home, I discovered that my savings account had been emptied and my credit card was maxed out. I then tried calling home for 2 days, but there was no answer. So without money or credit, I canceled my vacation and returned to duty. The next 6 months were brutal. I volunteered for every dangerous mission, earned respect, promotions, and a few medals. When I finally returned home, I was ready to file for divorce. One of the most frustrating things during this deployment was knowing that my paycheck took care of the rent, car payments, insurance, utilities, and food. In the meantime, my cheating wife and her affair partner enjoyed these benefits. He was sleeping in my bed, eating my food, driving my car, and screwing my wife. That was disgusting and enraging. I was at an emotional boiling point. Later, I found out that Aaron had contracted and sexually transmitted disease and pelvic inflammatory disease (PID). I filed for divorce immediately. Unfortunately, I lived in a no-fault state, so adultery did not matter legally. Though I avoided alimony, I was still forced to pay child support, even for a child that I suspected wasn't mine. In Texas, if you were married to the mother, you're responsible. She had finished college during our marriage, and because I had co-signed her student loans, I was responsible. I also got stuck with her car payment. I volunteered to go back to South Korea for a tour of duty. At least in Korea, I had mess hall meals, hazard pay, and no emotional landmines. Many years later, I received a letter from Aaron's daughter. She said she wanted to take her stepfather's last name and be legally adopted. I wrote her back, "Granted." With that, my child support ended. Many few years later, Brittany's stepdad, Rick, who was the last man in Aaron's rotation of lovers, walked her down the aisle when she got married. I wasn't invited. Disgustingly ironic that the man who was banging my wife would be the same man to give away my daughter at her wedding. So why share all this? Because it took me almost 18 years to get free of a selfish, cheating bitch. I have thought about revenge more times than I can count. But in the end, no woman is worth jail time, and nothing short of violence could have satisfied that hunger for justice. So I walked away from a liar, a thief, and a cheater, and I built a new life.